Today we're going to talk about maximizing your damage in a city garrison, and we're going to revisit the Wild Lion insane city defense using Eleanor and Esong. We'll talk a little bit more about why it works and answer some of your common questions, including the concept that, hey, could you do this with Smite and can you do this with combo? And I think the answer is yes. So a big thank you to the makers of Rise of Kingdoms for sponsoring this video, and let's dive right into it. A lot of people were asking, despite my having explained some of the basics in the video, why is it that Eleanor Esong works as a combination? Could you hypothetically have done better? And also, does this work with other damage types? Are Smite damage and combo damage potentially uncapped, just like skill damage is when you defend a city? So let's start by looking again at this combination, the Eleanor with Esong, all right? And Eleanor with Esong works for one big reason. As I mentioned in my video, you're looking for the 50% skill damage boost from Esong. This is massive. You also can get, for what it's worth, a bunch of archer attack. The extra rage is cool, and you've got a pretty decent damage factor. But the workhorse here is the Eleanor. Now, Eleanor's active skill is only doing 2,300 damage factor. However, when I reached out to Mia, who kindly explained to me the details and the rationale in depth behind some of these choices, he indicated that when you multiply by the troop power on Wild Lion, it's something like 521.7%. Like, for those of you that don't know, damage factors are based on your troop count. So the more troops you have, the more damage you deal. Now, people were wondering, but wait, Chisgule, why is the normal attack and counterattack damage not stacking up in the same way that the skill damage is? And that's because normals and counters are constrained and they're limited for a city defense. Only so many of your troops counted at a time for doing a normal attack and a counterattack. And when you think about this logically for a second, like if you were thinking about all the troops in a row on the battlefield, like the bottomless troops on Wild Lion and Mr. Hope, they couldn't all be in the front line doing damage all at once, which I think is kind of what that's representing for a city defense. Is like, yes, you have like bottomless troops, but like there's like only so many troops in the front line that can do damage. That's like how I mentalize or think about that idea of like, why is it that the normal attack and counterattack is constrained? Okay. This also makes it far more reasonable to attack a super large city. That's probably the better answer. Is like, dude, if his normals and counters were like over 1 million, you literally could not rally a city after it achieves a certain amount of troops. And technically, I mean, you saw the report, like, yeah, you know, you already can't rally a city like this when it's adequately prepared. But as I mentioned, damage factor does not have that constraint, and this is scaling up based on the total troops on the account. And that's how you get to the like 1.2 million skill damage number potentially that you are seeing. But there are some other things that like contribute to that. In fact, that's really not accurate the way I just said that, because also the rally has damage mitigation and there's other stuff going on. Okay. Let's talk about some of the other stuff that's going on. Eleanor's 4th skill is going to give you 10% more damage. Okay. Your expertise is going to give you 10% more damage. Also, when you look at the museum buff for Esong, that's giving you 12% more skill damage. And by the way, there was a pendant on here, and that's another 5% skill damage. That comes from equipment. Oh, my message expired. It's fine. You know what I'm talking about with pendant. You've seen this before. It's this guy right over here, and that was equipped on the garrison. In fact, the other thing that was equipped to the garrison was a talented ring. And this, I mean, untalented is giving you a 50% damage boost, but it goes up to 65% with the talent. By the way, it's 6.5% skill damage for whatever it's worth if you're using a pendant, and that's talented. So you're getting skill damage over there. But of course, Wild Lion and Mr. Hope, when they're defending, they have the ability to use full legendary inscriptions. And they were using these skill damage inscriptions and armaments. So if we go to that real quick, the formation itself is giving you 5% more skill damage. Do you see where this is going? Right? Hunter inscription was giving 5% more skill damage, and then single target damage is boosted by another 10%. You've got unstoppable 5% boost to skill damage. That's pretty sick. When dealing direct damage to target, there's a 30% chance the damage will be increased by another 10%. You've got balanced, so you have the possibility of another 8% more skill damage over here. You have intrepid, there's another 10% boost to skill damage. So you are just absolutely blasting the skill damage. And that is how you push toward that absolutely insane skill damage number. Now, theoretically, there are some other options here that you could have gone with if you were Wild Lion and Mr. Hope. One of those options that you could look at, although I don't think, given the strategy with skill damage, it would be quite as good, would be to go to the city defense armaments. Now, why am I saying this would not be as good? Well, let's talk about this. 15% counter attack damage, that's really cool, but remember, your normals and counters are constrained. Your skill damage with those troops, it's not. So, boosting your counter, not really where it's at for someone like Wild Lion Mr. Hope. Going to the next armament, Fortified. 12.5% skill damage, smite damage, combo damage resistance. I mean, it ain't bad. But remember, this is full legendary inscriptions. I mean, even Wild Lion Mr. Hope, having spent as much as they spent, do not have, I think, 7 full sets of legendary inscriptions. So for anyone that has achieved that, I would just scratch my head and say, wow, how you must be the luckiest person on the face of the earth. Almost like a statistical anomaly levels of luck, right? Choke point. So this makes it so that when your city's garrison's surrounded, you take less damage. Well, he wasn't surrounded, right? Steelheart. 7% more damage resistance. Wait, was this damage resistance or damage dealt? This is skill damage resistance, smite damage resistance, and combo damage resistance. And this is just overall damage resistance. So, you know, you can get some great mitigation from Tercio, and for your average pleb, like you and me, Tercio can be great. In fact, I have a city defense set up. I made it my preset number 1, so I never have to panic about where is it, you know, if I had to throw it onto something. And this makes it so that all the different stats apply to all your different troop types. And, you know, I'm using some of the blue ones. And actually, one thing I do as a differentiator is for the flag, because this has to do with being surrounded, I use sentries. Take 2% less damage while garrisoned. Okay, so I think this is a pretty handy backup set to have. I use some of my conversion stones to take blue armaments that went rainbow, which is like a thing you really don't want to happen, but it happens to everybody at some point, and here we are. Now, some people pointed out, in fact, some people proclaimed that Wild Lion was slacking for not having the other garrison maxed. So let's talk about that in 2 different ways. First of all, Wild Lion and Mr. Hope don't slack, okay? I'm pretty sure, but I could totally be wrong. Didn't this align with Mightiest Governor? I seem to remember them avoiding trading on the Mightiest Governor Day to let other people get legendary commander sculptures. So I think they specifically might have avoided getting the unlock just to let other people get it, which like feels like a W to me for the team, right? But setting all that aside for a second, yes, I think Matthias would have been a better pick. And the better pick, when I chatted with Mia, he said would be to use Matthias as the primary and then Eleanor as the secondary. So let's talk about how that would go. Ultimately, you'd be losing out on the, 62% skill damage enhancement from using Esong, which is definitely a bummer. But your upside to start with is that you're already getting 2,400 damage factor, which is a huge boost, Plus, you're going to take less damage, which is pretty handy. On the next skill, you're getting more counterattack, attack, defense, health. Remember, counterattack is really not important for someone like Wildlion and Mr. Hope at that size. Whenever your garrison reaches 70% rage, you take less skill damage. You also gain a mighty shield. Okay, still not what we're looking for. We want to destroy the rally. Here's where things get interesting. If this commander is one of your city garrison commanders, you get a 5% damage boost, and whenever you're hit with a basic attack, it has a 15% chance to cast the Let Others Make War skill. That is this skill here. 2,400 damage factor. And you reduce your damage taken. Okay, that is spicy. Now it's spicy because this is whenever you're hit by a basic attack, which, yeah, against Subutai, who's doing a bunch of combo damage, that all qualifies as basic attacks and opportunities to trigger this, right? Now, granted, the 15-second cooldown's not amazing, but that drops down from the expertise to a 10-second cooldown, bumps up to 10% damage, by the way, and also a 20% chance to trigger. So you theoretically could get this to trigger pretty frequently. I mean, once every 10 seconds at best, right? Realistically, more like 10 to 15 seconds on average would be a number I think is more reliable to assume. But if you used him as the primary and you used Eleanor as the secondary, you'd have to have a bunch of leadership gear. We're also then talking about like garrison talents plus leadership talents. So, you know, what are the leadership talents getting us compared to cavalry talents, right? And the attack tree is actually kind of interesting. Leadership attack for someone like Wildlion Mr. Hope trying to do lots of damage, that actually is really interesting. I hadn't thought about that, but let's get a look. So you've got leadership plus attack. We must have someone who has this, right? Hannibal Barca. He doesn't have garrison though, obviously. Do we have any garrison that has that combination? I don't think we do. That's really interesting. Okay, well, let's dive in. We start with the garrison-based talents, right? So I immediately click Onion Hat, who's not the right thing. So for garrison talents, you're going to want potentially impregnable, but maybe not because it depends on what the rally is. Are they doing skill damage or not? I still find it kind of jaw-dropping that this is not reducing smite damage. It is not reducing also combo damage. Like I'm surprised that this doesn't cover all the damage types. But here you would deal 6 more damage. You take that. You take 6% less damage. You take that. You probably want the rage. Okay, even though you're getting hit by only one thing, you'd snap those talents. Those all seem pretty good. But the rest of the talents in the garrison tree are not helpful to you. So it is important that those other talent trees bring you a lot of value. I obviously like getting more rage, so Hidden Wrath seems pretty good. I like dealing 3% more damage over here, although you're wasting talents on healing. You're wasting talents on troop capacity to take 3% less damage. I don't know that the leadership tree is all that amazing, but I think you'd have to put some points there, given there's just like not that many places to put points. So you definitely would invest in the attack tree. So does the attack tree have the payoff? What could we do? Well, first of all, hey, fight to the death is pretty crazy. 6% more damage for someone like Wildlion, Mr. Hope, but take 3% more? Sure, who cares? Who cares, right? Why not? Over here, effortless, enhancing your damage over time. Yep, 100% on plan. This is 100% on plan. Then, this would make you do more counter. Not amazing. Take less damage. Sure, I mean, you're taking these things, right? And then over here, if you had some sort of smite combination going on, this would be kind of cool, but Matthias is doing a bunch of skill damage. So like, this is not great, no matter how you slice it. So like, weirdly enough, it'd be kind of hard to productively deploy all your talent points without some amount of waste on talents that really are doing almost nothing for you. And it kind of is what it is. Which brings us to the question of, okay, Chisgule, very interesting idea, but if I wanted to replicate this for smite damage, or I wanted to replicate this for combo damage, what would I do? Right now, I don't think we have a way to do this for combo, but theoretically, we should be getting a cavalry garrison. I would assume it's going to have combo. So in the near future, that might be a thing that we are doing. I'm not sure, okay? But if we talk just about smite damage, there's really only like so many options for this. So if we limit to infantry, let's just get a peek. Could we do this? Something like it. Because when I chatted with Mia, he did mention that he did not think that the smite damage or the combo damage will be constrained like normals and counters. So what you could do is start with Gorgo. Okay? It's the same damage factor as Eleanor, 2,300. And for the next 3 seconds, this commander's troop deals more normal damage. Well, hey, that's kind of like what we're looking for now. Instead of boosting skill damage, is boost normal damage, right? So the 10% boost over here is pretty decent. Taking less skill damage and dealing less skill damage is kind of a bummer. Like, if you wanted to do a weird Gorgo plus Matthias combination, like there's some anti-synergy, which is kind of unfortunate. What else could you do here? You increase the target's normal damage received. I mean, there's only a 10% chance to trigger this, but if this lines up nicely, your smite damage could pop off in a big way. So that's on plan. That's a W. We look to the fourth skill. You have a chance to increase your normal damage by 30%. So we actually have right over here, with the combination of these two skills, a 60% swing. Deal 30% more, and they take 30% more. That's pretty decent, right? What am I missing here? You have a chance to get a mighty shield. You can reduce their attack. It's cute. I just don't think it's as good as the other combination. You're missing the ability to instant proc and do it all over again with Eleanor, right? Now, from here, how could you get more smite damage is kind of a weird question, because there's just like not that many ways. William Wallace is only doing 2,400 with an extra 300 to what's hitting you. I mean, it's technically there, but this is only when you're on the map. Okay, so this is interesting. You get an enhance your factor by 40%. Whenever this commander's troop deals smite damage with a damage factor greater than 1,000, that's kind of neat. This is when you're on the map. Like, I don't think you can do something quite like this. This is like cute, but not it. I don't think BQ is where it's at, is it? I don't know. 2,400 smite, 15% extra damage, no, 30% chance of it anyways. Wait, does this work? This is only when you're on the map. Yeah, I just don't know that you can replicate this with BQ. Unfortunate. I don't know. Like, the obvious thing that people would look to is Tokugawa, right? But he only does 2,400 factor, and he's gaining a shield. So it's like 3,000 factor of goodness, but it's not the max damage situation that you were looking for. Now, why are we looking for the max damage situation? Because you want to devastate the rally so much that they just can't fill it. Like, they actually cannot fill it. That was the Wild Lion plan, right? And he gains a bunch of shields, but I don't think this is quite it either, right? There's some boosting, 10% more damage over here. Like, I actually don't know that there's a way to do this with smite damage. Because again, you just want massive factors all stacking up. Skippy A, 2,700 factors is a W, but and the debuff is good. Make them take 20% more damage. But this skill is like when you're leading a rally. You get 5% more normal damage dealt, but right, when this skill doesn't even work. Like, this is cute, it's not good, right? You might say, oh, use Martel, but this doesn't have a factor on it. So I just don't think there's really a way to do this with another troop type. Maybe I'm missing it, right? Now, for most mortals, right, like you and me, arguably the best you could do for like a regular city defense, but this is maybe topic for a separate video, would be just commanders like Matthias. You have a leadership set. You're living large if you have a leadership set, or leadership talent at anything, quite frankly. But the leadership set is what you want for city defense. And then you would, let's see here. You'd, I guess, pair with like Lapu or Hera. For maximum damage, you'd use Lapu. And money where my mouth is, that's my backup garrison. Is to have Lapu and to put, my city defense stuff on him as I struggle to find him. Commander blindness is a real, folks, this is a real problem affecting real people, right? Lapu still only is doing 2,500 factor when maxed if it's a rally, which is still legit, obviously, but it's not quite the same. That's probably the combination I would run if I could wave a magic wand. It would be using Matthias and probably Lapu together to defend my city. But given the gear that I have, I probably end up doing infantry stuff. Now, on the topic of gear, there are a couple other boosts that I did not mention earlier. One boost comes from Furious Strike, 6.5% damage boost for 2 seconds. Okay, pretty big deal. Also, Shattering Strike, 10% chance to increase the next skill Smite combo damage by 8.5%. Pretty decent. On the legs, you reduce damage taken. Vengeful Strike is going to give you counter. Okay. And I think those are the same for calves, right? Plus the accessories. Divine Might can give you an upwards of 6.5% more normal damage dealt, which would affect Smite, or skill damage dealt, which would affect the Eleanor situation. So there's just a lot of ways you can get these enhancements and boosts, and it all just adds up. If you enjoyed the vid, throw a like on here, subscribe. Let me know if you enjoyed this breakdown, this much more detailed breakdown of the Wild Lion garrison. And if you missed that video, go check it out. Card will be right over here. It's got a ton of views, and I appreciate your support. People really like this, so check the vid. Until next time, you have fun smashing your enemies. Take care, everybody.